Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to stop for a moment and consider this fundamental truth. Your thoughts and your feelings are creating your state of being, and your state of being is generating your reality. Now, if you wake up every single morning and you feel the exact same way, the feeling of worry, the feeling of fear, the feeling of anxiety, your body is reliving the past. You are chemically addicted to an old cycle. You are quite literally living in yesterday. The feeling of anxiety is the familiar record of who you used to be, and your body is demanding that chemical fix because it has been conditioned as the mind. So, how do you break free? It is not a complicated process. It requires one powerful thing: consciousness. You have to become aware of the loop. When that familiar, low level emotional energy starts to rise, that knot in your stomach, that racing heartbeat, that is the moment of power. That is the moment you must tell the body that it is no longer the mind. This is not about fighting the emotion, it's about choosing a greater emotion. For just 11 minutes, can you commit 11 minutes to your future self? In those 11 minutes, we stop looking at the predictable and we start stepping into the unpredictable. We stop thinking from the problem and we start thinking from the solution. I want you to close your eyes, put your attention on your heart, and begin to elevate your emotion. Start cultivating gratitude. Start cultivating joy. Start feeling the emotions of your future before the experience that creates it. If you can move from surviving to creating, from stress to elevated emotion, you change your chemistry, you change your frequency. When you hold a clear intention of your future, what you want, and you combine it with an elevated emotion, how that future feels, you are sending a whole new electromagnetic signature into the field. You are no longer attracting reality based on fear. You are becoming a vibrational magnet for your destiny. It takes a powerful decision to say, no more. No more living in the past. No more allowing the body to dictate the emotional program. It takes 11 minutes to get beyond your body, beyond your environment, and beyond time, and to step into the quantum field where all possibilities exist. When you open your eyes, you are no longer the person who closed them. You have deleted the old program and you have installed a new one. Walk as if your future self is already here. That is how you delete anxiety and become the creator of your extraordinary life. Understand this fundamental law of biology and consciousness. Your body and your mind are in a constant dynamic feedback loop. They are speaking to each other in a language of chemistry. Every single thought you entertain produces a specific biochemical signal, a molecular messenger. When you entertain a thought of fear, worry, or anxiety thoughts rooted in anticipating a negative future or replaying a traumatic past, your brain instantly sends a cascade of stress hormones throughout your entire system. These are powerful chemicals: cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine. They are designed for short-term survival to help you run from the lion. But when you fire and wire these neural circuits every day, several times a day, you begin to signal these stress hormones, not for a few minutes, but for hours on end. This is where the addiction takes hold. The body, which is designed to be the servant of the mind, becomes deeply conditioned. It grows so accustomed to bathing in this cocktail of stress chemicals that it begins to perceive that state of high alert, of low level anxiety, as its normal or familiar homeostasis. And because the body's primary driver is survival and familiarity, it will begin to signal back to the mind, demanding its fix. The body literally sends chemical signals to the brain that say, think those familiar worried thoughts so I can feel those familiar anxious emotions. The body, in essence, is now running the show. The anxious feeling you experience is not a natural state of being. It is a chemical hunger. It is the body craving the drug it knows so well, the drug manufactured by your own persistent, fearful thoughts. When this occurs, you are chemically tethered to your past. The moment you wake up, before you even check your phone or confront the day's tasks, the familiar feeling of worry or dread arrives. Why? Because your body, which has been programmed by years of repetition, is already anticipating the chemical fix. It is reliving the emotions of every past event that caused stress. The feeling itself is the stored memory of the past. If you wake up and feel the same way every day, your future will be nothing more than a repeat of your past. You are literally living in a loop of yesterday, and the emotional energy you are emitting into the quantum field is not one of creation or potential, but one of survival and limitation. You are continuously manifesting the very conditions that perpetuate the stress, because your frequency, the energetic signature you send out, is stuck on the channel of fear. To break this cycle, you must rise above the body. You must become the scientist of your own existence. This transformation demands consciousness. You cannot change what you are not aware of. When the familiar emotional program begins to run, when that knot tightens in your gut, when the jaw clenches, when the heart begins to flutter with anxiety, that is your personal moment of power. That is the moment to observe the emotion, to notice the thought that triggered it, and to de-identify from it. You must understand that this feeling is not you. It is just the chemical addiction of your body, programmed by repetitive thought patterns. The discipline lies in acknowledging the signal, but choosing not to react to it. It is telling the body, you may crave that old chemical, but I am the new mind, and we are choosing a different destiny. Every time you observe the feeling and consciously choose to generate a new, elevated emotion, such as gratitude for something not yet manifested, or joy simply for being alive, you are breaking the chemical contract. You are withdrawing the drug from the body. And yes, there will be resistance. The body will scream for its familiar pain, just like any addict in withdrawal. But if you persist, if you choose the elevated emotion for just a few minutes, you begin to prune the old neural pathways and start wiring new ones. You are literally signaling new genes, creating new proteins, and producing new health-inducing chemicals. This act of conscious awareness, of observing the old program and choosing a higher frequency, is the single most vital step in dissolving the chemical prison of anxiety and stepping fully into your unlimited potential. Your body, once the master of your emotional life, will return to its rightful place as the obedient servant of your conscious intention. This is how you reclaim your power and rewire your entire being, from the chemistry of the past to the energy of the future. The transformation we discussed in -1, where you observe the chemical addiction of the past, leads us directly to the moment of action. Power is in the interruption. This is the pivotal point in time where you seize control of your destiny, where you consciously choose to step off the well-worn path of predictability and step into the fertile, unknown territory of creation. This power is not grand or external, it is internal, quiet, and absolutely non-negotiable. The old self is not going to surrender easily. It is an amalgamation of repetitive thoughts, actions, and feelings that has been running on autopilot for years. It is a program, and like any robust program, it has built-in resistance to change. When you sit down for your moment of elevated focus, those 11 minutes, that is precisely when the old program will try its hardest to hijack your attention. A thought of a past failure will flash in your mind. A surge of worry about tomorrow's schedule will rise from your solar plexus. That is the moment of interruption. That familiar feeling is the signal. It is the sound of the old program executing its code. This is not a battle. It is an observation. You must become the consciousness watching the program run. Do not judge the thought or the feeling, merely notice it. When the emotional energy of the past begins to rise, that is not a signal to engage with it, but a signal to disconnect from it. You are literally observing the chemical attempt of your body to pull you back into the past. Instead of reacting with the usual fear or frustration, you interrupt the pattern by acknowledging the familiar feeling and immediately redirecting your energy. The interruption is the art of saying next to the thought loop. You refuse to fire those old neurons and wire that old circuitry. By interrupting the habitual reaction, you starve the emotional energy that feeds the past. You are withdrawing your attention and therefore your energy from the negative thought, causing the associated neural network to begin to break down or unfire. This is the neurological foundation of true change. This process of unfiring the old is just as important as the firing of the new. Every moment you choose to interrupt the anxiety, you are tearing down a piece of the old chemical prison. If you interrupt the anxiety loop just 1 time, 2 times, 3 times in your 11 minutes, you have already won the most important war, the war against your conditioned self. Each interruption is a conscious choice that builds a new bridge in your brain, a new pathway toward your desired reality. The greater the intensity of your focus and the more you elevate your emotion in that moment of interruption, the faster those new neural networks become strong and stable. The power of the interruption lies in its immediacy. You don't need to wait for a perfect environment or a perfect day. The moment you feel the familiar surge of low-level emotion, that is the cue. That feeling, which used to be your trigger for suffering, now becomes your signal for transformation. It tells you the old program is running, consciousness required. Seize that feeling, interrupt the thought that fueled it, and replace it instantly with the elevated emotion of your future self, joy, abundance, or freedom. This consistent conscious interruption is the mechanism by which you break the shackles of the past and step powerfully and definitively into the state of being required to manifest your future. The transition from negative two's realization that power is in the interruption brings us to the most critical decision, the shift in fundamental state. You have a choice every single moment to remain in surviving to creating. To exist in survival is to live as a victim to your environment, where the people and conditions in your outer world dictate your internal state. When you are in stress, your body is conserving energy. That energy is diverted to the emergency response system, the primal brain, preparing you to fight, flee, or hide. You become hyper-focused on the material world, on what is already known, because survival demands predictability. This fixation shrinks your perspective and limits your choices, keeping you trapped in the narrow bandwidth of fear and anxiety. Stress literally causes you to live in scarcity, where you are always anticipating the worst case scenario and using up your vital creative energy just to maintain the familiar, painful state of being. But the moment you make the conscious, committed choice to move into creation, you are saying, I am bigger than my environment. You are saying, my internal state will create my external reality, not the other way around. This requires you to move your energy out of the lower, dense centers of the body where anxiety and fear reside and elevate it to the heart and the brain. You must release the high-frequency energy that was once trapped in the body's chemical addiction to the past, and you must use that freed energy to build your future. This shift is profound because neurologically and chemically, you are moving out of the limited physical dimension of the known and stepping into the limitless energetic potential of the unknown. To create, you must combine two elements perfectly: a clear, concise intention and an elevated emotion. Your intention is the blueprint, what you want to manifest, the particle side of reality, the very essence of -4. Coherence is magnetism. It's the thought, the instruction you give to the field. But a thought alone is not enough. It carries no energy to propel it into existence. It is the elevated emotion, the feeling of gratitude, the feeling of freedom, the feeling of awe that provides the energy, the wave, the magnetic charge. The elevated emotion is the prayer sent from the heart. When you intentionally cultivate elevated emotions, you are changing your electromagnetic signature. Stress hormones create chaotic, low-frequency brain and heart wave patterns. This scattered energy only pulls in scattered, predictable results. However, when you deliberately feel gratitude, love, or wholeness, you begin to synchronize your heart and your brain. The signal you are sending out is no longer a desperate cry for help, but a powerful, organized, and focused broadcast of creation. This is the difference between attracting more of the same stress and attracting extraordinary new possibilities. This is the act of stepping out of the role of the survivor, perpetually reacting to life, and claiming your true role as the creator, proactively designing life. When you achieve this internal shift from the chemistry of survival to the frequency of creation, you become an entirely new person, one who is ready to fully embody -5. Be the future now. Your commitment to this elevation is not just a feel good exercise, it is the most sophisticated act of quantum physics you can perform, transforming energy into matter and potential into reality. If -3 was about choosing to be a creator, -4 is about tuning the instrument. Magnetism is the law that governs how your internal state broadcasts your future reality. Think of your brain and your heart not just as organs, but as sophisticated broadcast and receiving stations. When you are living in anxiety, survival, and fear, your brainwave patterns are irregular and erratic. They are moving into chaotic, high frequency, scattered states, just like a radio trying to tune into 3 stations at once. Your heart, simultaneously, is beating in an incoherent pattern, jagged and unpredictable. When your brain and your heart are sending out 2 different unsynchronized signals, your energy, your electromagnetic field, is weak, dispersed, and carries very little information or power into the quantum field. This scattered, incoherent state is the definition of living as a non-magnet, where you are only strong enough to attract more of the scattered, unpredictable chaos that defines your current stress. To become a magnet, you must create coherence. Coherence simply means order, rhythm, and synchronization. The primary organ of creation is not your brain, it is your heart. When you shift your attention from the critical, analytical thinking mind, the beta state often associated with anxiety, and place your awareness into the center of your chest, you begin to send a powerful, clear, loving signal. When you cultivate elevated emotions like appreciation, gratitude, and unconditional love, your heart rate variability shifts instantly from chaos to beautiful, smooth, rhythmic waves. This is heart coherence. As the heart moves into coherence, it begins to generate a massive toroidal-shaped electromagnetic field that expands significantly outside your body. The heart's electrical field is thousands of times stronger than the brain's, and its magnetic field is hundreds of times stronger. This field is your broadcast antenna, and when it is coherent, it becomes highly organized and powerful. The elevated emotion is the energy you are sending out. Now, here is where the magic of the quantum creator happens. Once the heart is coherent and broadcasting a strong elevated frequency, the brain naturally follows. The rhythmic, ordered energy of the heart literally entrains the brain waves. The brain shifts from erratic high beta states down into the calmer, more focused alpha or even theta waves. When the brain, your clear intention, the thought, and the heart, your elevated emotion, the energy, are synchronized, when they are in coherence, they are sending a single, unified, massive signal into the field. This unified state is what creates magnetism. You are no longer scattered. You are focused, organized energy. This coherent energy field acts as a powerful attractor. You are no longer waiting for something external to happen to feel joy. You are generating the joy first. By becoming the vibrational match to your future reality, you are drawing experiences to you effortlessly, because the law of the quantum field dictates that like energy attracts like energy. You become a beacon of order, and the universe, which is fundamentally ordered, responds by collapsing potentials from the field and delivering them to you in the form of synchronicities, opportunities, and healing. You stop chasing your future and start becoming the magnetic force that pulls it right to your current reality. This state of coherence is the bridge between the feeling of survival and the reality of creation, preparing you for the final essential step of -5. Be the future now. The ultimate act of creation, the final mastery of this process, is found in the simple command, be the future now. This is the moment where the internal work, the interruption of the past, the choice for creation, the coherence of heart and mind must merge with the external waking world. This is not just a meditation technique, it is the establishment of a new personality. Your personality creates your personal reality. If you want a new reality, you must become a new person. And the new person lives in the emotion of the future before the future arrives. The challenge begins when you open your eyes and step back into your environment. You are immediately confronted by the 3-dimensional reality, the people, the objects, and the familiar routines that defined your anxious old self. The old environment is powerfully conditioned to trigger the old chemicals. This is the great test. If you allow the sight of an email, the sound of a voice, or the memory of a past event to pull you back into low-level emotion, you have surrendered your future to the past. The true master understands that the feeling of wholeness, the feeling of gratitude, the feeling of freedom, the elevated emotion you generated in your 11 minutes of focus must become your new default, your new normal. To be the future now means you must stop looking to the known world for proof of your transformation. When you wait for the wealth to appear before you feel abundant, you are acting as a victim to material reality. When you wait for the healing to occur before you feel whole, you are putting your body in charge of your mind. True creation works the opposite way. You must feel the elevated emotion so authentically, so deeply, that your body begins to believe it is already in that future reality. The feeling is the manifestation, and the physical event is simply the feedback. You must walk through your day as if your prayers have already been answered. This requires radical trust in the unknown. You have surrendered the how and the when to a consciousness greater than yourself, and your only job now is to hold the elevated frequency. If you are embodying joy, and something happens in your environment that would typically cause worry, you interrupt the old pattern, you stabilize your heart coherence, and you return to the frequency of joy. You choose the emotion of the future over the predictable emotion of the past. The more you do this, the more the new neural circuits fire, and the less available the anxious programs become. Your body, the unconscious mind, is finally being reconditioned by the conscious mind. By holding this state of being, you are not chasing your future. You are becoming the magnetic force that pulls the entire new experience, the new reality, the deleted anxiety to you effortlessly. The demonstration of your destiny happens when you hold the frequency long enough for matter to respond to your energy. So let us bring this all together. You've journeyed through the science of your own potential. You've learned that anxiety is just a chemical habit, a conditioned response your body's addicted to. But now you know the truth. You possess the power of interruption to break that neurological cycle. The very moment it starts, you've made the conscious choice to move your entire being from surviving to creating, shifting your energy from the low vibration of fear to the high frequency of love and gratitude. By synchronizing your heart and your brain, you achieved coherence as magnetism, becoming a powerful beacon that draws your desired reality toward you. This is the punchline. The single simple instruction you carry forward: be the future now. Don't wait for your healing, your wealth, or your joy to show up in the external world. You are the cause. The external reality is the effect. Every time you consciously choose the elevated emotion of your future self, every time you interrupt the familiar fear, you are deleting the old program and becoming the new person. It only takes a single, powerful decision, renewed moment by moment, to step out of the past and become the master of your destiny. Go out now and walk as if you have already received the life you are creating. That is how you delete anxiety, and that is how you change your world.